And it's recording. And it's recording.
Oops. Oh, that's been recording for 3 minutes, so.
Okay, so that's recording.
Thoughtful Ramblings, take 1.
Hi! Welcome to Thoughtful Ramblings. What? Where am I? We're in South Carolina, baby. Know it. Pardon the sound. It's tough to get used to all these new surroundings. Eric's in the background. He's helping me. He didn't have to work today. Praise God. How awesome is that? So anyway, welcome to South Carolina. It's pretty much the exact same weather as in Warwick, Rhode Island. Who would have thought? Thought it was going to be like warm and stuff. No, it's freezing. It's cold. It's cold down here. But it's nice. It's beautiful. There's trees, a lot of trees. I hope my mouth isn't making those weird noises in the but I just feel like every time the camera comes on, like my stomach starts growling, my mouth gets super juicy. It's weird. So I apologize out of the gate. But anyway, yeah, how did we get here, you ask? On the YouTube, I'll include some pics of what it looked like, our little caravan. So Eric had to drive a van filled completely with everything that wouldn't fit into our little pod. I took the RAV4 with my 2 dogs and 2 cats down, which was just a poop show for those of you that like to keep it PG. You're welcome. Yeah, so the day we left, it was pouring rain out. Pouring rain out. And my sister and I often use that as a euphemism when we're talking back and forth in text and something's upsetting us. We'll like do like rain clouds or like, just kind of to express how sad we are at certain moments. I'm going to time myself here. How bad is that? I should have started this prior. There it is. Oh, 1110-1110. How cool is that, right? Anyway, I have a thing about numbers. You should know that. I just dumped coffee all over my brand new jeans. What the heck? I can't even with myself, honestly. I'm going to have literally, I just took the tags off these this morning, and now there's a huge coffee spill on them that I'm looking at in utter dismay. But anyway, let's talk about miracles, shall we? Because that's often like the thing with the rain. Sadness and tears and all of that. But on a biblical perspective, that's a lot of times how... Wow, Eric, can you shut your phone sound off? My gosh. Unprofessional. Hearing his little beep, boop, beeps. Anyway, you think he'd be paying attention. No, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about this. And why should he really? It's kind of as unprofessional as you can get. But anyway, so yeah, how water tends to usher in miracles in the Bible. I've been just seeing it a lot. And then I had read an article about it one day, and now I'm always trying to like make those connection dots. But I noticed that, Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine, he to get baptized, he got baptized to start his ministry, and obviously that takes place in water. And then I just started looking at a few other things this morning. In the creation story, the Lord, his spirit hovered or brooded over the waters before light came. The flood, he completely, I don't want to say drown, but yeah, just enveloped the earth in water to start again this rebirth, the dividing of the Red Sea when God was leading his people out of Egypt, when they were going into the promised land, Joshua, when the priests stepped into the Jordan River to cross over into the land of Canaan, the water split and they were walked. All the Hebrews were able to walk along and dry land over to that. just like there's so much baptism, I said already, calming the storm, Jesus, where he kind of makes the waves and be still. And when he heals the blind, he picked spit in his hand and made a little bit of, like a little salve with some dirt and his spit, and he rubbed that on the eyes, and then he told the blind man to go wash in the pool of Bethsaida and then the guy could see, and there's so many things, right up until literally the moment of Jesus, his earthly body leaving, when they, the Roman guard took his spear and stuck it into the side of him, and the water and the blood rushed out, and that's the beginning of the new covenant. So good. So I held on to that day. Ooh, it was a hard day. Probably one of my worst days. I've had a few of those worst days, but when my son left for the military, of course I was a hot mess, but he was like, you only have to say goodbye to one person, which was pretty much one pretty big important person in my life. And he was right, though. I did only have to say bye to one person, to one thing. Like, after Eric left, I was able to go home, and there's my dog, and there's my husband, and there's my daughter, and there's my parents, and there's, my church, and all these kind of comforting things that we take for granted that we have in life. And that day, see, I knew this was going to happen. I probably should have drank water instead of coffee, because I tend to get dehydrated. My gosh, people must be so sick of watching me cry. I am already. But that was a really difficult day. That was a day I met my parents for lunch. And it was our last day. This was the final push. Eric and I were out of Warwick, and we still had so much stuff left in that apartment, and it was like so overwhelming, that in and of itself. And now here, I have to. I don't have to, but I want to go and have like a goodbye lunch with my mom and my dad, and my sister ended up coming too, which was pretty awesome. And that was tough, because my parents don't cry. I know you're looking at me thinking, what? That's all this girl does. And for the most part, that's true. I must have gotten all of that from them. Like, where they've suppressed it for so many years, it's kind of all been culminating in me, I guess. I don't know, but it was really hard. Again, I never really seen my mom cry. Just a couple tears here and there, but that was tough. Really, really tough. Yeah. But luckily it's only a short plane ride or a long drive back, but when we left that day, like, those words of little Eric kind of kept rolling through my head, like, I have to say goodbye to everyone. And I remember him saying that, and I thought, my gosh, he was only 18 when he left. That must have been crazy hard, like these kids in the military. Let's give it up for military personnel. And you don't realize how hard that is, like, especially if you're not moving away from it all. I realized that day. So we get home from that, and I am just now I'm so emotionally drained. I don't even know if I can handle the physical part of everything to come for the rest of that day, but by the grace of God, I was able to. We stuffing that van. Eric got a 9-passenger van, with literally stuffing it with the last little details of our life that we can fit in there, My car, we're stuffing with everything we can, plus the 2 dogs, and we had the cats in the back of it. We really could have done this better. We absolutely could have. But I was just, again, so emotionally drained before we even hit the road. I couldn't, I couldn't think of any clever ways to do anything at that point. But we had the back of the RAV4 has almost like this, it's like a window shade thing that you can kind of pull down and, kind of hide everything that you have in the trunk portion of your car. But when I did that, I guess we didn't click it in all the way, but we had the cat carrier in there in the litter box, and we left it open so the cats could kind of, go to the litter box or, kind of look around, but they'd still be in their little hole, their little hidey cave. And when I was driving, at one point, I heard this giant ruckus of like a shade getting flipped up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then I hear my dog in the back seat going crazy, and then I look at my rear view, and there's a little cat face, and my little cat who looks like an angel right now honestly, right now, but he's not usually, but he was that day because he stayed right where he was, thank God. And I'm trying to follow Eric, and Eric's driving this 9-passenger van, and all I can see is this van. I can't see around him. I can't see any other traffic other than the back of his van. And although it was assuring knowing he was in that van and I wasn't alone, it was also daunting trying to follow this van on a super crowded highway that whenever I would leave, I like to, safety first, people. I like to leave 3 car lengths. That's what my mom always taught me, from the car in front of me. But I figured I'd snuggle up a little closer to my husband to make sure that interference didn't happen. So maybe 2 car lengths, I don't know. And but man, if I left 2 car lengths, there was a car getting in there. For some reason, people just had to cut in front of me the entire way. And every time one person would cut in front of me, I guess it was their duty as a human to let, 7 or 8 other cars in front of them. But I don't even understand why they would want to get in my lane or get behind Eric for that matter, because if I can't see around him, neither could they. It was just so exhausting. I remember getting to the hotel. I cried another river of tears. It was kind of nice, because then I didn't want Eric to feel bad. Like I wasn't excited for our new adventure together, but I was mourning the past, that 50 years somewhere, 50 years, and it's a big deal. I love being from Massachusetts. Even when I was in Rhode Island those 4 years, I was like, oh my gosh, it's horrible being from Rhode Island. No offense to you for Rhode Islanders watching or listening. I don't know what the heck you're doing, but no, I just say that because you guys drive so horribly. Massachusetts are aggressive drivers, but they all have that commonality of driving. And if you can get into that, it's like double Dutch. If you can do that, you can drive in those places. But for some reason, other parts of the country just don't really know why. They don't seem to know why they're changing lanes or doing the things they're doing. I don't know. Call me crazy. If you'd like to argue the fact that your state contains better drivers, go for it. MrsRogers.net. Heck yeah, contact me. I love it. Maybe I'll mention you in a different episode. Maybe I won't. Who knows what I'll do? Not me, that's for sure. But yeah, so driving here was an adventure, and it was so stressful trying to stay behind Eric, especially where I had no idea where I was going. I was on roads I'd never been on before driving myself, and it was just really stressful. And knowing that the cats were loose in the car definitely made it way more stressful. We finally get to our hotel that night, and it was just gross. it was really just when you stay at a hotel and you say, yeah, I'm traveling with pets, they're like, oh, well, let me give you the grossest room that we have. And it's always on the first floor too, which is fine. But I don't know. It just always kind of creeps me out being on the first floor because I don't know. I don't know why, but it just does. I think just being up one level is just a little bit nicer. And it's true. When we got to the hotel, I took Winnie out of the car. She's our first dog that we got, and Eric was getting out Sadie out of the back seat, and as he was getting her out, and I'm kind of off to the side, stretching my legs, holding Winnie, and I look and I see this little orange fluff run from our car to underneath the van that Eric was driving. I couldn't even bear the thought, what if my cat, who's never been outside a day in her life, is now in the recesses of Pennsylvania. This is like the shadiest spot in Pennsylvania that I've been to some shady spots in Pennsylvania, but this was up there. Luckily, Eric got Nala out from under the car. I was so done. I was literally numb. I don't know if you've ever been to that state of mind where you're just so numb from everything that's happened, and you go and go and go and go and go and go and go, and this is like the first time I could sit and with my thoughts was in that car, and the drive was so stressful, and I was crying so much I could hardly see, and by the time we got there, I was just numb. But luckily, thank you Jesus, Eric got Nala out from under. Good job, baby. Getting Nala out from under the van, and all our little fuzzy friends made it into the hotel room. And once they were all in the hotel room, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out to the car and grab like my overnight bag and stuff. And I went back out to the car, and there was like 2 different people just sitting in their cars with their cars running like in the parking lot. And I just got such a feeling over me, you know, like that feeling that says, get the heck out of here. Yeah, that feeling. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dangerous. I grabbed my stuff and got back in the hotel room. And, we got our day going from there the next day and felt a little better. But man, it was so hard. It's so hard leaving things that you're so familiar with. I mean, we were ready for a change. Obviously, we wouldn't have made the change or pulled the trigger. But it was really hard, like ripping that Band-Aid off and actually doing it. It's like that last moment before you can back out of something, and but you do it, and I'm glad we did it. We're held up in our Airbnb. Like I said, we've been here for a little over a week now, and it's going good. It just doesn't feel like home. Nothing really does, but that's because we don't have our home yet. We close on it on Friday, which is pretty dope. So I'll probably record one more session here. Get excited, people, because the lighting in here is really nice, I guess. I haven't checked out video footage, but when I do, it's going to be good. So yeah, we're held up here with the 4 animals, my husband, me, and just got, we got to inspect our house and see it in person for the first time. Buying a house without ever seeing it is really a huge leap of faith, I feel like. Oh, can you hear that? Happens every single time. That was my belly. Get down, you. That must mean my husband needs to take me out for Chick-fil-A for lunch or something. I feel like that anyway. But yeah, I'm still kind of numb from everything, and now I'm thinking of emptying that pot out into the house and where things are going to go and how's this going to fit. And I think we just kind of create our own stress in those ways. You know what I mean? Like almost like instead of being, oh my gosh, we close and on Friday, I'm like, okay, we close Friday. So this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And we got to get this and we got to do that. And it's so weird, like all these little celebrations in life, we kind of flood or just jam pack full of so many other things that we don't even get to really fully enjoy it, which is interesting, because I have so many lists. I'm surrounded by lists of things we want and things we got to do and things we're still working on, and thinking of all the boxes, like I said, and where are we going to put this stuff. And now we're going to have to donate a bunch of things that won't fit in the house because they fit in that large space that we had, but now the space is reconfigured into all these other spaces and things, and it can get so overwhelming. But God, He calms those seas. I just kind of look back at my notes, and Jesus calms the storm. I wrote that in, like all the things He does where rain or water ushers in a miracle. And I believe that. I believe that torrential rain that day was ushering in a miracle into this new season. We had to take it in faith. My husband's checking out the camera, so it's super distracting for me. Oh, and he's messing around with things too. So is it even recording? Okay. Whew. And I can hear him tippy-tapping on the floor with his big giant shoes. He's got these gigantic sandals. They're so hideous. Do you think Crocs are ugly? You ain't seen nothing yet. His orange shoes are the worst. And he loves them so much. Honey, give me one of those orange shoes. Can you see it? I hope you can. Those are those RTD2 socks I bought for him at Old Navy for 99 cents. I think everyone got a pair of RTD2 socks that Christmas. But come on, 99 cents, that's crazy. That's crazy. That was a Black Friday deal. Shout out to Old Navy and Black Fridays. Not a sponsor. But you could be. Who knows? Maybe you could even... Oh, man, freaking coffee stain on my pants. I can't even believe that I just did this on literal brand new pants that I've worn for a minute. So yeah, calming the storm. He is so good for my soul. Like even if I'm running a million miles a minute, I can just kind of picture him on the stern of the boat and saying, "Quiet!" and everything going completely still. That's a miracle. He can literally quiet our storms with a word. He can bring us through storms with a word. He is so good and so timely, and I'm trusting in Him for all of it. So yeah, after buying a house on faith, we never went to look at our house. We didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see what the neighborhood looked like. We bought it all on video. Faith. Some say crazy. I say faith. And, pulling our 401k out and investing it in a home after faith. It's all about faith. And that's how I want to live my life. I want to live my life taking those crazy steps of faith, taking those crazy chances and doing those things that other people would say, "What, are you crazy?" Yeah, I am. I'm crazy. I'm crazy for every single thing that God has for me. I want it. I know a lot of people don't understand why you'd want to leave everything you've ever known. Wouldn't you want to see things you've never known? Isn't there's a whole world that I've never known? A whole bunch of things. And yeah, it was scary. The first week here, I was getting inundated with every fearful thought. But that's a command from God. Fear not. And even though these thoughts keep trying to come into my head and tell me I'm going all the wrong ways, I know who it is. Can you hear that? That was my dog scratching herself. You can't see it though. Magic. But yeah, it's super exciting. Our daughter's down in Florida. Our son right now is in Georgia. And here we are. Oh, are you going to get to see my kitty cat? Probably. That's Nala. That's the one that ran out of the... Can you see her on there? A little bit. Pequeno. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I am, great. If I'm not, hey, whatever. I'll get that little thing on Siri to tell me how to pronounce things. And I'll listen to it. But anyway, so here we are, South Carolina. We're getting stuff ready. We are living in this Airbnb, and I feel like just knowing all the things that need to be done in the next week, and knowing that I really can't do too many of them. My dad used to, so this is going to sound like I'm going off on a rabbit trail, but my dad used to take me to the dog track when I was a little girl. Quality time. And it really was, though. The dog track had the best clam chowder. Weird. I know, but true. And whenever we'd go, my dad would buy me a cup of clam chowder if I wanted. And anyway, why I even brought that up was at the dog track, we would go out to watch the dogs race. And, so we'd run outside right before the race started, and you could hear the dogs in their little cages. And this sounds really bad, and it was really mean, but you'd hear that, "Here comes the chief," and that was the name of this little wooden bunny that they would have kind of go around the track that my cat's chewing the wire. How adorable. Get out of there, you. He is the worst cat in the world. Noah, not the orange one. So anyway, you'd hear, "Here comes a chief," and this wooden rabbit would start to make its way around the track, and then all the dog cages would lift up simultaneously, and the dogs would go off chasing this little rabbit. But before that they would release the cages, you'd hear the dogs getting you'd hear the dogs getting all antsy in their cages, and then they'd start the race and run around the track. And that's what I feel like, one of those dogs in their cages. And on another side note to that, my husband just dumped an entire drink all over his pants and the couch where he was sitting, if you can hear the shuffling around in the back. I mean, at least it wasn't coffee, and it won't, but it's all over the back of his pants, and it's pretty funny. He's got wet marks all over him. But anyway, here comes the chief, is what I'm saying. Here comes, and at one point in the career too, the bunny was named Rusty. So I don't know why they changed the bunny's name, if they got a new bunny, or they just thought, "Here comes Rusty" was better, or I don't know. But it's probably because they got a new bunny. But anyway, if that's in case anybody's watching this going, "Hey, wait a minute, I remember the Rain 'em Taunton dog track, and that bunny's name was not the chief, it was Rusty," when in fact, as my husband opening up his new can of water. Well, he's making faces at me now like, "You're supposed to pretend I'm not here," but it's hard to pretend he's not here when he's right here. You don't see him. Magic. But I see him. You should see him, though. He's super cute. You've seen him before, but not today, folks. So anyway, the chief, Rusty, whatever your bunny looks like or wants to be called, here it comes, right? Jump out of that cage. Make it happen. Run the race well. That's a biblical thing. I don't know if that's like, I'm sure God wasn't talking about the horse track when when the Apostle Paul wrote about finishing the race well. But even still, it's a great lesson. Thanks, Bill Sullivan, for the life lesson. I remember things like that. And, well, the Rain 'em Taunton dog track is no more. It did, however, become a really great flea market for a lot of years. And then it became a training school for car dealers for like all the casinos that are opening up around the way. And now, if you were wondering, it's become an auction house for some sort of, for repoed cars that I'm sure one or two of my old cars is or has been gotten auctionated out of that establishment. But I did have very fond memories of the flea market there, as well as the dog track. Yeah. But anyway, I remember my dad took me there on Easter Sunday too. Right? Mom was making the meal, and Dad said, "Hey, want to go to the dogs with me?" I said, "You know what? I do." So me and Dad went and did that while Mom was making the Easter dinner. That was before I knew the Lord, though. And before I could even bet. I just liked spending time with my dad. So that's what we did. So anyway, yeah. So that's where we are. We're in South Carolina. We are literally right on the outskirts of Greenville right now, which is in the northwest, upper west side, if you will. Upper west side of South Carolina, right? Yeah, right. That's right, because I know my directions. Contrary, if you've ever driven with me, you may not know that I know my directions, but I do. North, south, east, west. Who really cares? Am I right? Let's talk about the upper west side. So the upper west side of South Carolina, beautiful. There's like bike trails, and which was a big thing for me because there's a couple of bike paths in Rhode Island I like to go and visit. And I was like, oh man, is there going to be anything in South Carolina? And I Googled it. Well, it turns out that Greenville is the capital of bike paths in the United States. Pretty cool. So there's one bike path I've been checking out a little every day with my dog. So I haven't been taking my bike, but just kind of walking and checking out little snippets of it. It's like 35 miles long. So you can go there every day for however long and see a new part of it all the time. So cool. And kind of neat checking out this little town and this little place and doing all these new things. And I do have to tell you about something before I sign off for the day. Fried bacon, right? Pan fried, yeah. We've all had pan fried bacon, but not deep fried, right? Me and Eric went out to breakfast, and it was really, I don't know, if you're into like really clean restaurant establishments, the cobwebs probably would have thrown you off. It was really kind of dingy, whatever. And it didn't matter. The place was hopping. No one seemed to care that it was dingy. And you could definitely tell Eric and I were outsiders in that establishment. Like it was such a local place. Every head turned when Eric and I walked in there. And, but when we got you get the eggs and whatever, and bacon, just like your regular plate. And I got my regular plate, but the bacon looked weird, And I'm like, what's up with this bacon? Looks weird. I took a bite. This was magic bacon. This was next level bacon. And it made me realize, wow, that's why people come to the South, is because they deep fry their bacon. And then what a win-win situation. You throw bacon into a fryer-later, you add more grease to the fryer-later. Almost seems like... Anyway, it was magical. It was absolutely magical. And I, people that know me and love me and want to come down and visit, maybe not to that restaurant. I'm going to find another one that sells deep-fried bacon, because it was kind of life-changing. And yeah, so that's that. That's where we are right now, and what we're up to, kind of held up in the Airbnb and getting excited for our new house. And I'm excited to set up my podcast there so you guys can see what the place looks like. I'll give you a little tour little tour of this place too. Who knows? Who knows what's in store for you? But that's probably a good reason to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can check out, like, where is she? What's going on? What does that Airbnb look like? I don't know. Well, that's why. That's why you'd want to subscribe to the Thoughtful Ramblings YouTube channel. Oh, I feel so lame even saying that. Subscribe to the Thoughtful Ramblings YouTube channel. Well, do it, okay? Because I guess that's what I'm supposed to tell you to do, right? Or if you don't have time to do that, maybe deep fry some bacon today. You'll hear me now, believe me later. It's life-changing. Anyway, that's it for me today. I think that's it. I wanted to tell you about my trip down here, what things looked like so far, kind of keep you in the loop as to where things are going. I'm going to get back on track of like my whole Thoughtful Ramblings thing when I get in, my anchor down to my establishment. But right now, just kind of floating around. So I hope you guys can dig this kind of, well, I guess you can dig this wishy-washy kind of thing, because you've been doing it with me for however many episodes we're at so far. So thank you so much. I love you guys awful. I am so thankful you're on this trip with me, and you've given me an outlet to be able to ramble on. I love it. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Have an awesome rest of your day. Greetings from South Carolina. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All done.
All done. All done. All done. All done. All done.